Okay, I'm dumb as a rock. When I was pointing at that earlier, thinking that was an unused hole, nah, that's part of the slot, because that's part of the slider for adjusting belt tension. Duh. So when I'm holding the phone, looking at its screen and pointing at stuff, sometimes I'm not quite identifying what I'm seeing. But a moment ago when I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh yeah, duh, that's one of the adjusters you gotta undo, loosen from the back. There's two slotted holes back there, plus the adjuster underneath down there for tightening the belt tension on the 6 cylinders. They don't have a tensioner pulley. These are just hard mounted pulleys. There is no spring tensioner pulley. You gotta adjust the power steering pump over to tighten up the fan belt, serpentine belt. So in the last video I was talking about that on the 93, that cylinder that comes out right here, that this plug here plugs into. And I apologize again. Like I said, sometimes when I'm on the fly and I'm recording and doing things, I misspeak. I called that throttle position. It's pedal position, brake pedal position. This is over here, the vacuum contact connection on the 93. And right about here, I showed in an earlier video, that sleeve coming out. It's a round sensor. That's brake pedal position that this plugs into. I don't know if jumping this out will turn off my ABS, because I remember, I think working on Ellie's, like I said, when this is unplugged, it did bring the ABS light on. I don't want to change master cylinders because this is in cleaner shape than the one off Hippo. I just want to get the proper reservoir. If I have to take that cylinder sensor, unscrew it and take it out and just plug it into this plug and lay it on in here on the side to just leave it to turn off the ABS light, obviously they did away with having a brake pedal position sensor because it's not needed now. I don't know how important that really is. So okay, working on some of my other problems. Like I said, this 95 has the overhead console and when I turn on the key, I didn't have outdoor temperature, the ambient temperature sensor. So I've been working through the schematics, figured out the junction plug down here, the 100 way, it's on the yellow line, the yellow plug. So let me turn on the key, and of course I have to touch the screen again and ruin my video from recording. So I turn on the key, and you see I have 0 outdoor temperature reading, because this harness out of the 93 out of Hippo did not have the outdoor. It only had just dumb overhead dome lights back there. It didn't have the whole console with the readout. So on the 100 way, it is the yellow plug. You can see right here, pin 11 is the ambient temperature sensor. Okay, so it takes me to the sheet 73. Now here's you also have on the schematic itself that shows the plugs used and not used, depending on whether you have the digital climate control or the analog. So right there at top, you see there's the outside ambient temperature sensor. Now this dash does not have the light sensors on the dashes, solar sensor there, and it does not have the sensor that sits right in here, that because it's not a digital climate controller. This is the analog, and this is what I like better. Less technology, simpler technology, simply because the vacuum actuators, man, they don't fail as bad as the motorized ones do. So trace that down to the big plug here. This goes down, even though that's your climate controller, it's still coming down to the 100 way plug. This is the yellow. Actually, this is the red plug here that I pulled through the little hole of the dash sensor. This was taped up back there, wrapped up, like that one is, for the digital climate controller. Well, it's not used, so I just pulled it through here to probe it, and obviously it does come over here on the inside of the yellow plug. I just plugged the yellow plug back in. But yeah, you can see along the bottom, there is no wires in the 3 bottom locations. And that's what? That's 10, 11, and 12. So one is the HVAC sensor return, and 11 is the ambient temperature sensor, 12 is not used. So I come on this side, my N95 Jeep, they were down in here. I did have, it's a light green with a white and a dark green with a red. Okay, so here they are. I cut them out all just an inch away from back here. I don't snip it right up against the pin in case I ever want a butt connector, reuse it again. So they're down there cut, they're not going to anything. They're out here now, I pulled them out. And so I found out I tossed the old original main engine harness away that got burned. I didn't keep anything. So dang it, out front, the pigtail probably was fine for the ambient outdoor temperature sensor, but I threw the dang thing away. So I was looking at this, I'm like, okay, this is the outdoor temperature sensor. It's got one of these little tiny plugs with the pins real close together, but they're keyed. You see how there's a notch on one side and a kind of a captain's hat almost that surrounds the overhead. Has to only plug in one way. I'm like, dang it, do I have another plug that's like that? Well, because I got underneath the transmission, did all the transmission connections and yanked out the rest of the old harness here that goes back to your speed sensor and all this stuff. There is one plug underneath the transmission that looked like it was that size plug. So I cut that out of that harness. Of course, after doing that, I found out the top hat is different. So they actually, to the sensor, it's rounder on the opposite side of that little notch. So I'm like, but if I could use the lock tab, that would be good. So I just took this plug. It's hard to see. I get good enough light here. And I get my phone to focus on it. But you can see how I still have the top hat on one side, but I rounded this one. Rounded that one out. And now I have no problem. It will plug in. And it fits. It's the same size plug, it's just keyed different. So I took out a little bit of the keyway. It's still only going to fit this way. Okay, so now I have a pigtail that I can use. And I cut it back and pulled out through that harness as much as I can to use as much as I can here. Interestingly enough, this plug, too, even though it went to the training, happens to have a light green and a white stripe too. Of course, but the other wire is a blue with a black stripe. So to hook these two together, I got 0 reading. Now I'm going to hook them up, and I found out to get it to read positive instead of negative temperature, I have to go light to dark, dark to light. It's kind of hard to do this and get things up here where I could actually work on them. Okay, so I got no reading now. Let me hook this up. Boing. Okay, I clip to it, and okay, what have I got? One of my jumper wires bad because I just touched it without jumper. I got these jumper wires to use so I didn't have to try and hold things in, hold my phone too while I'm recording. And I'm still getting 0. Well, I must have a bad jumper wire here. One of these boogers is not good. Either the white one or the green jumper isn't good. Alright, let me go get 2 other ones. I might shut this off and start over again. Okay, there, I got it. It's 70 degrees. 69, it's reading in here now. So I got this. I just use the gator clips to hold the 2 wires together. I got to go the blue to the light green with white, and the green with the white over here to the dark green with the red to get positive temperature. And that's working. So I'm jumpered this outdoor temperature sensor, which is going to get mounted back in the grill, and I'm going to have to extend wires and bring them in. Get a 2-pair wire ran in here. But I've got that fixed now. Now I have outdoor temperature, 67. I'm moving the sensor all around. I don't keep it 67 in my shop. I keep it about 55. But it's inside the truck here where I'm working, and I'm warmed up and the lights are showing. So anyway, that's how you can wire your outdoor temperature, and it helps to have schematics. You really got to have a book when you get into this detail of wiring and stuff on a vehicle. You got to have schematics and stuff. I found I think it was one of the Wrangler forums where a guy posted a link for all Jeep schematics and stuff, which was really, I was really tickled to get that. So I saved one for an 04 TJ because I think my brother's TJ is an 04. I got 3 of these EJs and a WJ here, and You know, this is the stuff that's hard to get, this kind of information. You can find images, you know, doing an internet search, you can find some images of some of this stuff, but you really got to have the PDF or a full factory manual or something to find this stuff. So I'm tickled because that's one thing I really like. I like knowing what the outdoor temperature is. I'm going to come back on later. I've still got some issues. I pulled the underdash fuse out. This is number 5 there for my underdash lights, and the key switch ring. When I'm in and I hook up the battery, they're coming on and not going off with the doors closed. So I've got another issue I got to work out, find out what that is. Like I said, I've never seen this Jeep run. Bought it for 300 bucks with engine burn, but it's in really good shape. The seats are really nice. It's really in good shape. It only has 136 on it, and I got Hippo is a 2-year older than this Jeep Twin, which you saw if you're following these videos. Got the whole engine harness and everything out, but you never know when some things like that are missing, that they didn't bring down all the wiring, because it was these 3 upper plugs, the blue, yellow, and black, that came from the engine harness that I had to fish down. I have video on, you probably saw. So anyway, I'm not going to seek out a whole nother Jeep and start that whole project under the hood over. I'm going to fix the wiring where I need to fix it. It's not too many things. Idiot lights are coming on fine. I haven't cranked it yet because, I had to pull the, that's right, I had to pull the fuel pump relay. I started smelling gas. I'm like, what the heck am I smelling? I'm like, oh yeah, this thing, my fuel line here was shooting gas. This thing's really sloppy loose. So I'm sure the rubber seal, look at this thing move. I'm sure this rubber seal, I'm gonna have to put my tool in there to pop this off again and get that seal ring and replace it, because the fuel line is not sealing. This was spitting freaking gas out. So it's good to know the fuel pump's working. We're getting closer. This is fog lamp location over here. This is my fuel pump relay. So I pulled it out over here and just sat it over here. There's nothing but empty holes there. This Jeep did not come with the fog lamps. So I just use that as my holder location for it. I really should pull out all the relays and fuses and clean the red base board of that whole fuse box. I cleaned around everything, but I didn't really pull everything out. Anyway, she's coming together. Stay tuned.